Mireille sighed softly, dropping the phone on her bed rather carelessly. She had just received a call from her brother informing her that he was sick and would be away for 3 months to recuperate properly, but that wasn't the huge news. The huge news was that she had to stay with his best friend named Dante. Dante. She mumbled the name, trying to recall why it sounded so familiar. She had lived most of her life being sheltered by her big brother, and he seemed to forget the fact that she was not a baby or a teen. She was 24 already and could easily make her own decisions, but he would never stop hovering around her and ensuring that he took care of her. Sometimes it felt good to know how much her brother cared about her, and sometimes she just felt choked up by his protectiveness. He had not even allowed her to date until she was 20, claiming that all men are out there to break girls' hearts. Mireille shook her head, her dark, wavy hair flipping a little bit as she did so. Finding a job should have been easy for her, but James did not want her to go through the stress of going to work too. Mireille did not consider having a job stressful, but James insisted that having a job would affect her way too much. Mireille needed no one to tell her that James was the reason she could not get a job after a year of job hunting. She was sure that he had reached out to every single company he knew she would apply to, and made sure none of them gave her a job. Yes, James' protectiveness choked her up, and even though Mireille sometimes thought of doing something rebellious against James, something that would make him mad and make him eventually make him realize that she was an adult already, she still could not actually go through with any of her rebellions. She was too much of a good girl. Brushing away the thoughts of her brother, Mireille decided to start packing in anticipation for her brother's friend, Dante. She headed into her closet that was stacked up with all sorts of clothes and accessories for her use. A huge mirror was in the middle of the closet, and Mireille looked into the mirror. She could see the beautiful, pale-skinned, 5 feet 5 inches woman staring back at her. Her hazel green eyes stared back at her. She looked away from the mirror and started packing a few clothing she would be needing. It did not take her long to get done with packing up. Mireille decided to take another shower and headed into the bathroom. She turned on the shower and let the water run down her skin lazily. Dante, the name had stuck to her mind as she still tried to remember who he was while under the shower. Minutes passed, but she was unable to recollect who he was. Mireille gave up on trying, assuring herself she would remember who he was after seeing him. She walked out of the bathroom, a towel tied to her chest. She was just about to change into the blue dress on her bed when she heard the gates opening. "Dante is here," she mumbled and quickly dressed up. She ran her fingers through her wet hair and hurriedly picked up the dryer to dry it up. She was a minute into it when a knock came on her door. "Yes? Come in," she replied, and the door opened. A maid walked in. "You have a guest, ma'am. Tell him I would be with him very soon." "All right, miss." The maid left the room and Mireille resumed drying her hair. She absolutely hated keeping others waiting, so she dropped the hairdryer and brushed her hair. Mireille picked her luggage and hurried out of the room. She composed herself as she got to the stairs that led down into the living room. Walking down the stairs elegantly, she was curious to see who Dante was. She arrived in the living room and found a man with his back turned to her. He was staring at an old picture of her and her brother. Mireille found herself staring at his back view for much longer than she expected. He was wearing a tailored shirt and trousers, and even though he was clothed, Mireille needed no one to tell her what hot body hid under that black shirt. She gulped down and was about to speak, but he beat her to it. "You looked very cute, princess." His deep voice rang through her ears, and instantly Mireille's eyes widened. "Dante." The name finally registered. "Yes, princess." He turned to her and Mireille could swear that something strange happened to her body, something that usually never happened. Yet, there was no way she would not recognize this face and the smirk on his lips, and there was no way she would not recognize that sexily annoying voice of his that called her princess all the time.